Welcome back to Diana Marie Home, where I share DIY cooking from scratch and creating cozy spaces on a budget in our 1800s farmhouse in upstate New York. Today, I am sharing how I made a DIY shelf to hide all of the ugly plumbing hookups behind our washer and dryer. I'm so excited to share this process with you and also how it turned out. Here is a look at where I started in our laundry room and then a peek at where we ended up. I'm guessing I'm not the only one who has a laundry room that has something that looks like this with all of the ugly, unavoidable pipes in the back. I knew when we bought our house that it was something that I wanted to create a solution for to kind of disguise that. Our house currently has our laundry room combined with our downstairs bathroom, which we do have future plans to change, but that's going to be in the far future, so I knew I was going to have to come up with a project for the meantime to make this space look and function better than it does currently. So I had been brainstorming what I could do because an added challenge we have is our light switch for the room is also on that wall. So when I was looking up ideas for how to hide the washer and dryer plumbing, a lot of it included kind of building a fake wall, which wasn't really going to work since we needed to have easy access to the light switch that was also on that wall. So what I ended up coming up with was building a DIY shelf that would have a little curtain that would cover all of that plumbing and also the light switch, but would allow us to reach the light switch very easily. So I wanted to challenge myself and just use scrap lumber that I had around the house from old projects. So I went around and collected that. I have some scrap underlayment from a project that we did that was ripped down to about 4 or 5 inches. I had a scrap shelf board that was a 1x12 and I cut it down to size. I will say now that this isn't an exact tutorial with exact measurements, exact cuts, because I made this shelf custom to the size that I needed and I just kind of figured it out as I went. So my hope is that this video can be an inspiration and show you kind of what I did so that you can take it and make it your own if this is something that you're interested in doing as well. And then something that I think is pretty special about this piece that I made is I actually used reclaimed molding from when I tore out the ceiling in our current living room. It was originally our dining room. It was probably the first big project that I did in our house. It started with tearing a little tiny hole into the ceiling to see what kind of water damage we were dealing with, if it was old or current, and ended up becoming a huge renovation, tearing out multiple drop ceilings that had been added into that room. But that is all on the blog if you're interested in learning more about that whole journey. But this molding that you see me using on the shelf here was actually wood that I saved from tearing down that drop ceiling. So kind of cool using pieces from our home into a decorative piece that will also be in our home. Once I got all of the wood cut, I brought it in, and I will say I made this part look easier in the video than it actually was because I had already lined everything up on the shelf board and traced an outline for myself so that when I was ready for this step of attaching the wood pieces, it was a lot easier. So I didn't show that step in the video, but just know that I did already go through and outline everything to make sure that I had my cuts correct and all of that. And then here you can see I am using a cordless brad nailer. I have to talk about this for a second because this tool has been an absolute game changer for me. When I installed the faux shiplap in our living room and dining room using underlayment boards, I used a brad nailer that required an air compressor and the long hose, the traditional setup. And at the time, it wasn't that bad because the rooms were cleared. They were completely, emptied out, being renovated from ceiling to floor. But later on, I ended up realizing there was a board that the brad nailer ran out of nails, and it was missing 2 nails. And it had been that way we're probably going on 4 or 5 years at this point, 4 years. And I never went back and fixed it because the thought of having to pull the air compressor and that long cord and get the brad nailer out, it was just too much for 2 nails. And then a toe kick board fell off of one of our cabinets, and that has been off the cabinet for at least a year now, and have not fixed it because of the same reason. This brad nailer took care of both of those projects that I've been avoiding for years in a matter of 5 minutes because it just needs a battery. This one specifically is from Greenworks. I've partnered with them this year, and I've been trying out some of their tools, and I have loved them all because taking the cord off of things like a brad nailer has just been a total game changer. You can see in another video that I did of making a DIY pleated lampshade, I was using a cordless hot glue gun, another game changer. So anyways, I just have to say that cordless brad nailer made this project so much easier in my opinion, and I was very happy to use it. It worked so well, and yes, I only have good things to say about it. But anyways, here you see me trying to attach the molding. This is the salvage molding I was telling you about from that other project. And come to find out, creating corners with molding is a bit tricky. So I did need a miter saw for this, and I had to figure out I had only ever made 90-degree cuts on miter saws. This I had to make 45-degree cut and do it in different ways. I didn't film that part because I was watching YouTube videos while I was doing it to try to figure it out. It definitely isn't perfect, but I'm super proud of how it turned out because it's pretty darn good. And I don't think anyone else looking at it would realize how off it actually probably was. But for my first try, I am going to call it a success. I'm just attaching that to the frame that I made using the brad nailer. And I will say, if you just want a simple shelf to keep it super simple to hide your laundry pipes, you don't need to do all of this detail. It can be as simple as the 1x12 board, and you can actually ask your hardware store to cut that down to size for you as well, so you really don't even need any tools to do this project. I just wanted to challenge myself and try to create this shelf that looked like an old mantle almost to use for this project. So I just want to point that out, that all of these extra steps are extra, and then it can be as simple as using one board with some hooks and a curtain, hide the plumbing, and that would still look really good as well. So here I'm just briefly sanding it down, sanding off some of the rough edges, kind of helping to connect those molding piece corners before I go in and start caulking. Caulking is also an added step that just kind of adds a nice finishing touch. I feel like caulk can be one of those things that can seem a little intimidating if you've never done it, but then once you give it a try, it really isn't too bad, and it's pretty easy to get the hang of after a couple tries. So this is my favorite caulk. When I was doing our living room, I used a cheap caulk and it cracked after just a couple months. So after that, I never used a cheap caulk again. I only used this DAP Extreme Stretch, and it's the only one that I'll use. It works so well and does not crack after being in place, and you can paint it. So that's what I'm using on this project as well. I just run my lines of caulk, and I usually use this little caulking tool, but I couldn't find it on this day, and for just a small project, it was easy enough to just use my finger, and I'll just run my finger down the first time to smooth it all out, and then I will do a very quick swipe with my finger to finish it off and make it nice and smooth. So all the tools that I am talking about, I will have linked in my Amazon store for you to go back to if you're looking for anything. I've learned a lot over the last 5 years of renovating our old home and have tried a lot of different tools and supplies, and so I've learned a lot about what works best for me, and I'm happy to share all of that with you to hopefully save others some of the learning experiences that I've gone through trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. So in an effort to organize all of those things that I use and love, I've just been creating lists in my Amazon store to keep it easy to access for anyone looking for recommendations. This is the following day. The caulk was dry. I could have painted it a couple hours after I caulked, but I worked during nap time, so I had to wait until the next day. I am just using a leftover can of paint because I was really trying not to buy too many things for this project, and I'm using my Behr Scuff Defense in Modern White. It's one of my favorite colors, and it is my favorite paint. It's what I use on all of our walls in our home. It's really easy to clean, very durable paint, and it dries quick, nice coverage. It's just a great paint. I am using that to cover the shelf. It ended up taking 2 coats. And although I do really like the white, I was kind of thinking once I got the shelf put up that maybe eventually I'll go back and paint this like a putty color or a grayish. Let me know in the comments if you think I should keep the shelf white or if I should experiment with painting it a different color. That's the nice thing about paint. It is so easy to switch up. I do think this shelf would have looked good in the space as a wood tone, but since I was using the scrap wood and the molding was already painted and I was just using underlayment, it wasn't really a possibility to use like a nice finished wood look, but I could always paint it like a darker brown to give the idea, like the look of wood. So I don't know, it's white for now. I do like it the way it is, but maybe one day I will decide to switch it up a bit. If you do want to make a shelf for your laundry room like the one that I'm making, I do encourage you to check out the blog post that I have that goes along with this video. I do have some more detailed information in the blog post in terms of the different pieces of wood that I used, all of the supplies, all of the tools, all in one place and easy to find. So the link to that related blog post is also in the description. Here's the shelf after I hung it in the laundry room. I just used metal shelf brackets to hang this, and I used a stud finder to find where the studs were to determine where those went. They didn't have to be perfectly centered on the shelf since this curtain would be hiding them anyways. I kind of used a curtain rod and some brackets that I made up to attach my curtains. However, if I were to do this again, I would just use the screw-in hooks and some dowel rods or a curtain rod. I just think it would have made it a lot easier to attach the curtain using the screw-in hooks versus the system that I used, but that's one of the things about DIY projects. You kind of learn as you go. So that's one of the changes I would make that would have made this project easier. For the fabric, I just used scrap fabric. I actually just got this from an estate sale. It's just cotton muslin fabric, and I cut it double the length that I needed so that I could fold it over the curtain rod and hang it that way instead of having to sew a pocket for the curtain rod to go through. I do plan to eventually go back and hem the ends, but for now it's just going to be a nice rustic raw edge, and you can't even really tell. So realistically, it will be like that for a while, but it looks really nice the way it is, and it serves its purpose in covering all of the appliances in the back, but allowing us to easily get to the light switch. This is my absolute favorite part, the decorating. I've been collecting pieces for our laundry room for years now. Some of them I don't even remember where I got them from at this point, and they've just been sitting in a closet waiting for somewhere to go. These vintage washboards, the vintage mirror, this old art piece that actually came from a house not too far from us that was having an estate sale. But what is my favorite part is that the things that we use all the time, like our laundry detergent sheets and dryer balls, now have a place to go. I keep the detergent sheets in the vintage basket to the left. You can't see they're there, but they're super easy to get to. And then our dryer balls will go in that glass canister, but I have to find those around the house first. But now they can go nicely on the shelf, easy to get to, and they will no longer be thrown on the floor or on top of the dryer. And now the dryer can be used to store empty laundry baskets. So I am just so happy with how this project turned out. It's one of those things I was very happy to get crossed off of my project to-do list. It has made our room much more functional, but it also made it go from feeling like a room that was just added on to our house to a room that was actually part of our house, if that makes sense. So it has made our home more functional and more cozy at the same time. I am so happy to have this project done. I hope that you found this helpful and inspiring in some way, and be sure to check out that blog post for more of the details. Hit like and subscribe to follow along with these videos, and I will see you in the next one.